guys, CalebBeg01 here. Welcome back to my second episode now of my tracklist ranking. For today's tracklist ranking, I am doing Panic at the Disco's album Vices and Virtues. At the same time, just to let you know, I have my random album review of this album on my channel at the moment, so if you haven't checked that out, I would appreciate that. And maybe go see my thoughts on the album as a whole. But I honestly probably do like doing these tracklist rankings more than my random album reviews. I just find it easier and I like it more to go into deeper details on the songs themselves, and I like putting the little samples in there. I just wanted to also say this is only the standard edition of the album, so only 10 songs on here. It's a pretty short album, starts with the Ballad of Mona Lisa and goes to track 10, Nearly Witches. So don't expect to see any of the bonus tracks in this ranking, so you will not see songs like Bittersweet or so on. And just my thoughts on this album, revisiting it for my random album reviews and for this tracklist ranking. I liked this album a lot more than what I thought I did. Panic at the Disco has never been a standout band for me. I really like their first album, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. But an album like Vices and Virtues, I never held it, as high as what I did for A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. But revisiting it, a lot of really good songs on here. There was a lot of songs I was familiar with, but maybe I just really underestimated them. And also on the other hand, there were a lot of dark horses that really shot up for me and really stood out. Maybe I just wasn't so aware of them, but yeah, this definitely was an album I was surprised with. I wouldn't say I hold it as high as A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, but definitely one that surprised me. But with that being said, let's get into our tracklist ranking now, starting off with the song I rate the lowest for the album, number 10. So unfortunately, a song has to come last in this ranking, and that is Memories. Memories comes in the first half of the album, and I just think it's too safe of a song for me. There's nothing really there that makes me want to revisit and come back to it too often. It's not a complete dud of a song, even though it's last on my ranking. It's not bad at all. It's just, unfortunately, it's got to fall somewhere, and to me, this is the weakest song on the album. It doesn't have a lot of replay value for me, and yeah, I just couldn't have it above any of the others. As I said, Memory's not a bad song, but it's got to fall somewhere, so I have it as my number 10. Next up, we have the only acoustic song on the album, being Always, coming in at number 9. To me, the strongest part of Always is its lyrics. Panic at the Disco, they write very unique, interesting lyrics, and it comes through very strong in this song. Maybe it's because, the instrumentals are so stripped back because it is acoustic, and the lyrics really take the forefront for this song, and I really enjoy that. But just with the acoustic element of this song, I just feel like it's very, once again, really safe. There's nothing too interesting going on with it other than the lyrics, so just once again, not a bad song, but it's got to fall somewhere, so for me, Always comes in at number 9. Trade Mistakes comes in at my number 8. I actually really like Trade Mistakes. Originally it was higher on this list, but the song that's coming up next just had to jump in front and knock this one down. I really like the chorus of Trade Mistakes. It comes in very strong, very demanding, very powerful. The verses are maybe a little bit weaker, but I really like the choruses of this song. Unfortunately, as I said, the one coming up next just knocked this off, and I have a bit of a story with the next song, so it was very splitting hairs between the two, but Trade Mistakes, definitely not a bad song at all. Just unfortunately, there are some really solid songs coming up, and I would recommend Trade Mistakes a lot. I wish I could put it higher, but unfortunately it's got to come in at number 8. My number 7 now is Ready to Go, and as I said, I have a little bit of a story with this one. So, growing up, I hated this song. I hated this song with a passion. This album is from the year 2011, but I've had it in my collection for maybe 4 years, give or take, something like that. And so before I had the album, and before I knew Panic at the Disco sung the song Ready to Go, before I knew it was them, at school, at the end of recess and lunch, we would have music play, and that would be the sign for us to go back to class, and Ready to Go was one of the songs, and I fucking hated it. Every time it came on, I couldn't fucking stand it. And then when I started to dip my toes into this album before I bought it, I was like, Ready to Go, I don't know this song, I'll play it. And as soon as it started playing, I went, that's that fucking shit song that plays at the end of recess and lunch. And I hated it. And for so long, I thought this song was going to be last on my tracklist ranking. I was so certain of it. But that's what's so fun about going back and revisiting some albums that you haven't maybe listened to in a long time, or, aren't completely, fully familiar with. Because Ready to Go surprised me. It's, once again, sort of a safer song. It's very just like sort of radio friendly, maybe the poppiest sounding song for the album. But it is catchy and you can have a fun time with it. As I said, it was originally I had Trade Mistakes above this one, but the more and more I listened to it, I just had to sort of take defeat and go, okay, maybe this is a song that's not as bad as what I thought it was originally, and I just got to give it props because, as I said, it surprised me with how enjoyable and catchy it is. So my number 7 has to go to Ready to Go. I know what you guys are saying. How is the Ballad of Mona Lisa only at number 6? Still to this date, this is one of Panic at the Disco's oldest albums, and yet Ballad of Mona Lisa is still one of their most popular songs of all time. If you're not a fan of Panic at the Disco, most likely you still would have heard Ballad of Mona Lisa. So a lot of people are probably wondering why it's so low. For me, I really, really, really like this song a lot. My top 6 in this ranking are really solid songs. But unfortunately, I just think Ballad of Mona Lisa is one of their most overrated singles. You got to know the difference between overrated and bad. Overrated just means, I think people hold it a little bit too highly. That's everyone's opinion. But for me, I just think it's one of their safer singles, but completely not a bad song at all. I said in my random album review, this is one of the first songs that I learnt in the first ever band I played in. So I have a lot of memories with this song. Maybe that's it, that I've heard it so many times, but unfortunately I just didn't want to put it any higher, so that's why my number 6 is the Ballad of Mona Lisa. Halfway through the track list ranking already, and my number 5 is Nearly Witches, Ever Since We Met. I thought this song was going to be a little higher, but number 5 I think is good enough. As I said, my top 6 in this ranking are really, really strong songs. So it didn't hurt too much to not be able to put it higher, but I did think it was. This is such an epic song to cap off the album, or wrap it up, however you want to say it. This song feels very theatrical, very epic, and I've said this before, that's how you should always finish an album. Maybe not, make every song that wraps the album be very epic, but make it something memorable, because once the album's done and you've listened to it from start to finish, you always want to have a fond memory. And if you finish it with a song like Nearly Witches, that's what it does. So when I was listening to this album and revisiting it, listening to it from track 1 to track 10, and it finishes with a song like Nearly Witches, it leaves such a good feeling in my head, and I go, yep, that was a solid album, just purely off the way it ends. But that being said, the song by itself just standing on its own, really solid. The lyrics are just really interesting, and Brennan's vocals in it as well, just screaming the final chorus. Very, very strong song. My number 4 now is Let's Kill Tonight. This is a song I knew I liked, but I was surprised that it was this high. I thought this would have fallen around maybe 5 or 6. I know it's not too far off those positions, but I was surprised with revisiting this album how much I liked this song, and that all falls to how they approach the choruses and how heavy they go with this song. Panic at the Disco isn't known for being a heavy band, and granted, Let's Kill Tonight isn't a overly heavy song, but they experiment and really go for it with these really heavy guitars going into the choruses. And I feel like it balances well with some verses that I feel like the verses aren't as strong as the choruses, but they're really sort of dancey and upbeat and jumpy, and that can be a lot of fun. But then once it comes and into the choruses and just builds up with those electric guitars, it's so crazy and it just hits every time. So I feel like number 4 is a really good spot for this song, and I would definitely check out Let's Kill Tonight. The Calendar comes in at number 3, and this is a song that I love. And I have, once again, another little story for this. So, as I said, I've had this album in my collection for maybe 4 years now, and I remember when I first got it, anytime I listened to an album for the first time in general, or my first time buying it, I always listened to it from front to back. And The Calendar was a song that I wasn't familiar with at all. I'd never heard anyone talk about it. I didn't know it was a song by them at all. And when it came on, I went, what the fuck is this? I can't believe I've gone this long without knowing this song, because this is fucking awesome. The Calendar gives me pop punk vibes, even though it's not really a pop punk song at all. It just sort of gives me those vibes. I'm not sure why. I think it's those choruses. The choruses are just so fucking catchy, and it doesn't lose any momentum through the verses and through the bridges. But yeah, as I said, the choruses is what really brings it whole. And yeah, I can't believe I had never heard that song before listening to this album for the first time. Going into this tracklist ranking, or when I first pulled this album for myself for my random album review, I could have sworn this song was going to be number 1, but number 3 is fine. There was as obviously 2 songs above it, but definitely check out The Calendar. I feel like still not many people talk about this one, and they really need to have a listen to this song, because The Calendar is awesome. Sarah Smiles surprised the fuck out of me with how much I loved it. I knew I liked Sarah Smiles. This was a song I was very familiar with going into the album, but just this time around, it just hit completely different. I put samples, obviously, through my video of the songs, just so that's the purpose of that, is so if you have heard the song before, you just get a little reminder, or if you haven't heard the song before, you can get a little sample and see if that's something that you want to check out. It was so hard to put a sample of Sarah Smiles in this video, because the song is so diverse, and if you don't know, every chorus is the same lyrics but played differently. You go from the first chorus, which is just very, very just blissful, wavy. I'm pretty sure that's the sample I'm going to put in the video, just the first chorus. But then you go into the second verse, and it starts to build up with these drums. The drums really get really fast, in the pre-chorus. And then once the second chorus hits, it's a totally different beat from what we got in the first chorus. It's these smashing drums, sort of a faster pace. And then once again, it changes up by the third chorus. And I can't think of another song off the top of my head. I'm sure there are a few others, but off the top of my head, I can't think of another song that does that, gives you a different taste, a different beat through each one of its choruses. And Sarah Smiles, as I said, it was a song I was familiar with, but really was a dark horse with this track list ranking, because originally I thought it was probably going to just make my top 5, but it really shot up, and I'm so happy that it made number 2. If you somehow haven't heard Sarah Smiles, definitely give it a chance. And as I said, just listen out for how they change the instrumentals as the song goes from start to finish. And yeah, I couldn't recommend that enough. Now let's get to my number 1. Finally down to my number 1, and it had to go to track 3 on the album, Hurricane. Hurricane is awesome. Always been one of my favourites on the album, but as I said, revisiting it, it's such a heavy hitter. This song is so insanely catchy. Whenever I do my random album reviews and tracklist rankings, my best time to listen to these albums is on my way to work and from work, because that's just when I have time to myself and I'm not doing anything else. And when this song comes on and you've got the chorus, hey, I'm just smashing the wheel. It is such a fucking, low-key banger. Just from start to finish, the verses are just as strong as the chorus. I know I was just giving the chorus some praise, but from start to finish, it is completely solid. I don't think this might not be a surprise to a lot of people, because I feel like the Hurricane is a very popular song, or at least a lot of people will acknowledge it for being one of Panic at the Disco's more solid songs, especially off Vices and Virtues. But as I said, it's my number 1. My top 6, as I said, all of them are really solid, but the Hurricane just took it out. And that's my track list ranking for Panic at the Disco's Vices and Virtues. So as I said at the start of the video, this album on revisit was one that really surprised me. I never really held Panic at the Disco on this really high standard. In my mind, I've kind of only thought in the past Fever You Can't Sweat Out is their gold standard, absolute pinnacle. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of their other albums that I like, not really my favourites, but I enjoy them. And for a long time, Vices and Virtues was on that level. But on revisit, there are some extremely great songs on there. And now that I look back, there are no bad songs on this album at all. Obviously, the ones that are at the bottom of this ranking are, average, not always my thing. But there are no just simply bad songs on this album. And yeah, that's a really strong credit to them, having even though it's only 10 tracks, going from 1 to 10 without a terrible song is a really solid effort. So I just wanted to put that out there, but obviously, as I said, if you want to check out my complete thoughts on the album and what I rate it out of 10, check out my random album review. As I said, that should be up at the same time as this, so I'd appreciate that if you want to go and check that out. But thank you guys again for joining me for another almost said random album review again, tracklist ranking. As I said, I love doing these. I love breaking down the songs individually, and I already have my next album planned. That video should come out maybe in 3 weeks, a month's time, something like that. That's normally my turnaround for music content, but I appreciate you guys for joining me again, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Peace.